Okay, you're not able to use your mic also. Okay, so we're going to start the second last chapter of this topic, the bio portion, and that is the ecosystem. Now, before we move on with this topic, students, can you just check one thing for me? Can you check whether the biogeochemical cycle is there for your syllabus, and also about that? The first check about biogeochemical cycle, like all those cycles are there or not for your syllabus. And yes, succession also you check. Yes, tell me, is it there?
Not sure, ma'am.
Okay. All right. We'll see as we go about it. So let us start with this chapter, that is ecosystem. Now, see, just like how cell is the unit of life, then neuron is the unit of nervous system. Same way, the ecosystem, it is the functional unit of our living world, meaning the world that we live in. If we talk about one simple unit of it, that's the ecosystem. And it is a self-sustaining unit. Self-sustaining means that it is capable of living as it is without any help because of the components that are present in the ecosystem. So there are two major components of our ecosystem. The first one is the abiotic component, and then there is the biotic component. Now, the abiotic component means the non-living component of our ecosystem, whereas the biotic component means the living, you can say, component of our ecosystem. So now when we talk about the abiotic component, so we have the temperature, rainfall, wind, soil, mine, sunlight, all of that comes under the abiotic components of our ecosystem. And whereas when we talk about the biotic components, so all the living organism, right from bacteria to humans and animals and plants also. Obviously, we can't keep plants out of it. So plants also. So all of these would come under the biotic components of our ecosystem. Amna, switch on your video. Why are you late to the class today? Yes, Amna, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Why are
My not downloaded.
you?
Zoom was not downloaded.
Zoom was not downloaded. Okay, switch on your video. All right, so in terms of the ecosystem, let us talk about what are the different types of ecosystem that we have. So the ecosystem on a very broader scale, it can be terrestrial or it can be aquatic. Now the ecosystem that is terrestrial, obviously we know that it is the ecosystem that is present on the land. So we say that it is the land ecosystem, such as the forest, the grasslands, and all of that we have. And then talking about the aquatic ecosystem, so it is the water ecosystem. We have this thing, the pond, the lakes, the rivers, the ocean, all of these would come under the aquatic. Okay. So the ocean would be the marine ecosystem and the river would be the freshwater ecosystem. Yes, Amna, are you switching on your video or not? Hmm? Am I audible? Students, am I audible to you all? Why are you not responding, Amna? Okay, so the two major types of Mariam, you also switch on your video. Mariam Lohani, am I audible?
Yes, 1 second, ma'am.
Okay. Now, this was the two types of ecosystem on a broader basis. Now, talking with respect to human beings. Okay, meaning now we are seeing how human interference has created the different kinds of ecosystem that we have. Now, in the natural ecosystem, that is, you can say under the like human beings, that is the forest, the marine ecosystem. Normally, you think it's there, right? But in the case of this particular man-made ecosystem, that is anthropogenic. The word anthropogenic itself means that it like made by man or has human interference. So the kind of ecosystem that is created and maintained by the human beings, we call it as the anthropogenic ecosystem or the man-made ecosystem, such as we have the crop field or the agricultural field on which we grow plants and all of that. So that is also a man-made ecosystem, right? It has certain worms in it, certain microorganisms in it. So all of it constitutes an ecosystem. Along with the abiotic components, we have the soil, water, sunlight, and all of that. Then comes the garden. The garden is also some sort of, you can say, a smaller ecosystem that is again made by man. And then the like aquarium. You know that how aquarium is like, it has stones, it has water, the filter, and then it has the fishes. Now, the agro ecosystem is the agricultural ecosystem, and it is the largest man-made ecosystem. Now, you people might have seen pictures of the agricultural land, right? The tracts and tracts of lands are there that are, you can say, the plants are grown on it, trees are grown on it, any kind of agricultural activity takes place, and it is the largest man-made ecosystem. Any doubts up until now? Now, let us talk about the characteristics of the man-made ecosystem. Now, they do not have a self-regulatory mechanism, meaning, obviously, since it is created artificially and it is not naturally self-sustaining, so whoever has created that ecosystem, that person has to constantly keep a check on it that everything is provided, all the conditions are there, all the things are there, necessities are there. So it is not self-regulatory. It has to be regulated by the one who created it, that is the man. Then they have little diversity. Since it is artificially created, obviously it would have little diversity, meaning the variety of organisms and all that will be much less. Okay, now they have a simple food chain. Simple food chain, as in one organism is the producer, that is the plant. That organism will be eaten by the herbivores, and then in turn the herbivores will be eaten by the carnivores. That's it. A simple food chain will be there. Then comes high productivity. They have a very high productivity, meaning you know that how much of crops we get from the agricultural land, right? It's like phenomenal. So that productivity of the, you can say, the ecosystem is very high. Little cycling of nutrients. Like the nutrients, they are not cycled a lot because the diversity itself is less in the man-made ecosystem. So these are some of the characteristics of the man-made ecosystem, which is like just the opposite of it is present in the natural ecosystem. Now, when we talk about the abiotic components, so the first one, that is the climate. The climate of a place also tells us about the kind of organisms that live in that area. For example, if you look at the animals that are found in the Antarctica, right? The North Pole, isn't it? They have a thick skin, they have fur on their skin, isn't it? All of those things are there. But do you think those kind of organisms would be found in a desert ecosystem? No, they will not be. So it includes the water, the light, the temperature, the wind, all of it would come under the climatic component of the abiotic, you can say, part. Then comes the edaphic. Edaphic refers to the soil condition. What kind of a soil is present in that particular area? Now, related to the soil composition, physical and chemical properties of the soil, all of these would come under the edaphic part of the abiotic component. And then there's the topographic, which is the related to the earth, right? It is related to the physical features of the earth, like valleys, mountains, plains, slopes, and all of that. We know that accordingly, the vegetation is very different. The kind of people that sustain their life, they are very different, and all of that things would happen. This is the abiotic component of the ecosystem. Now, when we talk about the biotic components, so we have like majorly producers, consumers, and decomposers. Now, producers are those biotic components that synthesize the food for the rest of the organisms that are found there, such as the autotrophic organisms. Give me one example of an autotroph.
Plants.
Plants, obviously. Plants are there. So they are the ones that photosynthesize, because of which they also produce oxygen as well as they produce the food for the whole entire globe. Then comes the consumers. Now, consumers are the ones that feed on the producers either directly, or they feed on the products given by the producers indirectly. So under the consumers, they all are heterotrophs, such as we have the primary consumers that are herbivores, meaning they are directly feeding upon the producers. Then comes the secondary consumers, or you can call them as primary carnivores. They are the ones that feed on the organisms that feed on the plants. So the carnivores, we know that they eat the herbivores. And then comes the secondary carnivores. These are the ones that will eat the primary carnivores. And then there is the top carnivore, which will not be eaten by any other organism. Okay. Not eaten not eaten by any other organism. For example, we know that the grass is there. The grass comes under the producer since it is an autotroph. So the grasses, they are eaten by the goat. The goat is eaten by the human being, let's just say. Now, is there any organism that eats human being? Are we the prey of any other species or any other group of organism? No. Or like, let's just talk about, like, for example, the goat or the deer, it eats the grass, and the goat or the deer gets eaten by the lion. Now, is there any other organism that eats the lion? Which one?
What?
Is there, I'm asking, is there any other organism that eats the lion?
Um, Probably.
Which organism?
Uh,
And by eating, I mean hunting.
Hunting.
Ma'am, crocodiles eat them, right?
But that's like not their mode of, nutrition, right? Hunting is like, just like how lions, they are the predators for the herbivores, right? The cows, the goats, and all of that. But there is no organism that would eat the lion. Same way, there is no organism that would eat the human beings. I'm talking about predation. I'm not talking about, like, for example, if you say hyenas. Now, hyenas don't hunt lions, right? If a lion dies, then they will come to eat. Getting my point? So all those organisms which are further not eaten by any other organisms, they are the top carnivores. Clear? Then comes the decomposers. Now these are completely different set of organisms that convert the complex organic substances into simple inorganic forms, and they are very important in terms of the soil fertility and all of those things. So the biotic components are clear to you all?
Yes,
And the
ma'am.
Abiotic components. All right. Now, see, this is one such example of how the whole entire organism, like for example, the plant, here the plant is the producer. The plant gets eaten by the grasshopper. So the grasshopper becomes the primary consumer, right? It is the herbivore in this case. Then the grasshopper gets eaten by the insectivorous birds, birds that eat the insects. So now this bird would become the secondary carnivore because it is eating the primary carnivore. And then the insectivorous birds, they get eaten by the snake. So snakes become the tertiary carnivores, and these snakes are getting eaten by the vultures. So the vultures are not further eaten by any other organism. So the vultures become the top carnivores. Got it? All right. Now you people can note down till here. Then we'll move forward. Done, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Done, students?
1 second, ma'am.
Okay, okay.
Done, ma'am.
Okay, everyone's done. Where are the rest of you students? Why only one student only replies in the class? Done, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, very good. Done, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Done, students?
One
Any doubt?
second, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Any doubts up until now?
No, no.
All okay, so now see students, now we're going to see what is the structure of the ecosystem. So the ecosystem consists of two of the things that defines the structure that it has. The first is the species composition, meaning it tells us about how many number of plant and animal species are present in the ecosystem. Okay, the number of plant and animal species in an ecosystem. The number of plants and animal species in an ecosystem is how we define the species composition of that ecosystem. For example, if we talk about the tropical rainforest, so it has a lot of species present. But when we talk about the desert ecosystem, then it will have very less. So example, species in tropical rainforest, because tropical rainforest will also become an ecosystem. It is greater than the desert ecosystem. So this is how we define the species composition. Then comes stratification. Stratification is basically the vertical distribution, vertical distribution of different species occupying different levels, like how on the same, or you can say in the same ecosystem there are different levels, and each of those levels are occupied by different organisms. For example, I'll tell you how. Vertical distribution of different species occupying different levels. Occupying different levels. For example, like I'll give you one example in the case of plants, right? If we talk about the bottom layer, the bottommost layer, it will obviously, you can see that the grasses and the herbs, they are very small plants, right? Grasses, they are always present in like very close to the ground. So at the bottom layer, the grasses would be present. Then when we talk about the middle or the second layer, okay, so in this, which kind of plant would you find? You'd find shrubs, isn't it? They are not very tall, but they are not very tiny also. And then when we talk about the top layer, what do you think, students? Which one would occupy the topmost layer of the ecosystem? Tell me. It would be the trees, isn't it? Because they are the taller ones. So this is how stratification happens. Strata means layers. So the distribution of the organisms at different layers or different levels, that is what we call as the uh, stratification. So species composition and stratification is clear to you all, students?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
All right, very good. Now let us see the functions of the ecosystem. See, ecosystem, they have four major functions. It's very important for the sustainability, also to persist the life. So the first one is productivity, which obviously is the prime work of the producers. Then comes decomposition. So productivity, decomposition, then energy flow and nutrient cycling. So these four are the major, or you can say the most important functions of the ecosystem. Now we have to discuss each of these functions of the ecosystem in depth. And a lot of questions get asked from this part. Clear, students? So you note down till here, then we'll move forward. Done, students? Students, are you done?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay. So do you people have any doubts up until now?
No, ma'am.
All right. Okay. So we'll keep it till here only for today's class. And in the next class, we'll continue and discuss more about the productivity, the decomposition, all of the functions of the ecosystem. Okay, students? I meaning next class means tomorrow. So like be prepared with whatever I've taught today. Okay. Try to revise it before the next class and then we'll discuss further. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.